Welcome to Ingrid and Chris, your favorite channel for peaceful bedtime stories. Tonight's story is a magical journey designed to help your little one relax and drift off into a deep, calming sleep. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on these soothing adventures. Once upon a time, in a peaceful village surrounded by rolling hills and quiet rivers, there lived a little boy named Theo. Every night, as the stars twinkled in the sky, Theo's imagination would soar. But on one special night, something magical happened. As Theo lay in bed, wrapped in his soft blanket, a soft breeze entered through his open window. The air smelled sweet, like fresh flowers, and a soft glow filled his room. Theo opened his eyes and saw his bed begin to rise. He wasn't scared. He was filled with wonder. His bed floated gently out of the window and up into the night sky. The village below became smaller and smaller until it looked like a toy town. Theo looked around and saw the stars twinkling even brighter up here. The clouds were as soft as cotton, and the moon was a giant lantern in the sky, casting a gentle glow over everything. "Where are we going?" Theo whispered into the night air. A warm, soothing voice replied, "We're going to the Moonlit Forest, a place where dreams are made." Theo held onto his blanket as his bed soared through the sky, passing over mountains, rivers, and forests. The journey itself was calming. The wind whispered gently in his ears, and the moonlight bathed everything in a soft, peaceful glow. As they flew further, the landscape below changed. They were approaching a vast forest, unlike any Theo had ever seen before. The trees were taller than skyscrapers, and their leaves shimmered in silver and gold. The forest seemed to glow with an inner light, as if each tree held a secret, ancient magic. At the edge of the forest, Theo saw a clearing where a large owl waited. The owl's feathers were as white as snow, and they glittered with stardust. "Welcome, Theo," the owl said softly. "I am Luna, and I have been waiting for you." Theo climbed out of his bed and followed Luna into the forest. The trees whispered softly as they passed, and the ground beneath their feet glowed faintly, like a path made of moonbeams. Theo felt a sense of calm wash over him. They walked deeper into the forest, where the air smelled of sweet jasmine, and the stars above twinkled like a million diamonds. Luna led him to a clearing where several forest creatures had gathered. A family of glowing fireflies floated gently around them, their soft light dancing in the air. A wise old turtle with a shell that reflected the stars watched them with kind eyes, and a young deer with fur as soft as velvet stepped forward to greet Theo. "Tonight," Luna said, "we will take you on a journey through the land of dreams." Theo smiled. He was excited but also calm, as if the peace of the forest had settled into his bones. He knew he was safe here, surrounded by the magic of the forest and the warmth of his new friends. "Where shall we go first?" Luna asked. Theo thought for a moment and then whispered, "To the Starlight Lake." In an instant, the forest around them transformed. They were standing at the edge of the most beautiful lake Theo had ever seen. The water was so still that it perfectly reflected the night sky. It was as if the stars had fallen into the lake and were floating on its surface. Theo dipped his toes into the water. It was warm, like a comforting hug. He closed his eyes and listened to the gentle sounds of the forest, the soft rustle of the leaves, the quiet hum of the fireflies, and the distant song of the wind. Time seemed to slow down. The world around Theo became a gentle lullaby, and he felt as though he could float on the surface of the lake forever. After what felt like hours, Luna gently nudged Theo. "There is more to see," she said with a smile. They continued their journey through the moonlit forest, exploring hidden groves and magical streams. They walked through a field of flowers that glowed in the dark, their petals opening and closing as if they were breathing. Theo touched one of the flowers, and it began to hum softly, filling the air with a gentle melody. Next, they came upon a small village nestled among the trees. The houses were made of wood, and their windows glowed with warm light. Theo could see tiny figures moving inside, elves and fairies busy with their nightly routines. Some were baking bread, and the smell of fresh loaves filled the air, while others tended to glowing gardens filled with enchanted plants. The village was alive with gentle activity, but it wasn't loud or overwhelming. Instead, it felt like a comforting rhythm, the heartbeat of the forest itself. Theo and Luna were greeted by the villagers with warm smiles and kind words. One of the fairies offered Theo a small crystal that glowed softly in his hand. "This is a gift from the forest," she said. "It will guide you whenever you need light in the dark." As they left the village, Theo tucked the crystal into his pocket, feeling its warmth against his skin. They continued walking until they reached a hill covered in soft moss. At the top of the hill was a tree unlike any Theo had ever seen. Its branches stretched high into the sky, and its leaves shimmered in every color of the rainbow. "This is the dream tree," Luna said softly. "It is where all dreams are born." Theo stood in awe, gazing up at the tree. Its branches swayed gently in the breeze, and as they moved, tiny dream bubbles floated down, each one holding a different dream inside. Some were filled with laughter, others with adventure, and some with peaceful, quiet moments. Theo reached out and touched one of the bubbles. Instantly, he was transported into a dream where he was flying through the sky on the back of a giant eagle. The wind rushed through his hair, and the world below looked so small. He felt free, like he could soar forever. When the dream ended, Theo found himself back in the clearing, standing beneath the dream tree. They walked and walked, exploring different parts of the forest, each one more magical and soothing than the last. The moonlit pathways seemed to stretch on forever, guiding them deeper into the heart of the forest. The soothing hum of the creatures and the rustling leaves were like a lullaby that filled the air. Theo felt as though he was part of the forest itself. After some time, Luna brought Theo to a quiet grove where a small pond reflected the stars like a mirror. They sat by the edge of the water, watching the reflection of the moon as it moved gently across the sky. Theo closed his eyes and took a deep breath. The air was cool and refreshing, and the soft sounds of the forest made him feel completely at peace. Finally, Luna nudged Theo gently. "It's time to return home, little one," she said softly. Theo climbed back onto his bed, which had been floating quietly beside them all along. As they rose into the air once more, Theo looked down at the forest. The trees waved gently in the breeze, as if bidding him farewell, and the stars twinkled brighter than ever before, watching over him as he floated higher and higher. As his bed gently landed back in his room, Theo tucked himself under his blanket. The last thing he heard before drifting off to sleep was Luna's voice whispering, "We'll be here, Theo, whenever you need us." And with that, Theo drifted into the most peaceful sleep, his dreams filled with the magic and wonder of the moonlit forest. Thank you for joining us on tonight's magical adventure. If your child enjoyed this story, Please like the video and subscribe to Ingrid and Chris for more relaxing bedtime stories that will help bring peace and calm to your evenings. We wish you a good night and sweet dreams.